Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us for this webinar brought to you by Investors in the Environment. We've got a great program of spring and late winter webinars that we're running to help raise awareness about what you can do to become more sustainable in business, as well as what you can do to become more sustainable in your personal lives as well. So today's webinar is called Measurably More Green, and we're going to be talking about green energy tariffs, what it means to switch your supplier to a green energy tariff, and a lot of frequently asked questions around kind of the pitfalls and unknown areas about the green energy supply, particularly here in the UK. We've got two fantastic speakers today that we're really excited to introduce you to. We've got James Peacock, who is the Business Development Manager at Ecotricity, who's going to be talking about that measurably more green agenda. So his talk is called Welcome to the Green Revolution. James is going to cover an overview of the key differences between green energy tariffs, what impact switching your business supply has to renewable power, how that makes a difference, and how you can reduce your energy costs and also your carbon output using energy monitoring and management. So we think that renewable energy is clearly the future. And this year, 2021, we want to see more businesses switching their supplies and looking at how they can reduce their carbon and their environmental impact by looking at green energy. So I will leave it to James to further elaborate on his fantastic expertise on green energy. Over to you, James.
Thanks ever so much for that introduction, April. Just starting my video and making sure you guys can see my screen. Hi folks, so I thought I'd start off with a little bit about the who, what and why of Ecotricity. We're a relatively small energy supplier and not everybody's heard of us. However, we do punch above our weight, so quite often a reassuring number of people have. So who are Ecotricity? We're Britain's greenest energy company, and when we were founded in 1995, we were the world's first green electricity company. We're started by a chap called Dale Vince, who was a new age traveller at the time, living on a hill outside of Stroud. He was powering his own existence completely off-grid through using a small wind turbine, and he eventually managed to build a wind turbine on top of that hill in Stroud. We've grown to supply nearly 200,000 businesses and homes around Britain with 100% renewable electricity made from the wind and the sun and carbon neutralized gas. So what makes us different from other energy suppliers? We don't just supply green energy, we actually generate it ourselves as well. And over the last 20 years, we've built 74 windmills, spanning 24 wind parks across the country, and a growing body of solar farms growing as well. This is producing a huge amount of power for us already, and is really sort of our unique selling point. In addition to selling 100% renewable electricity, we also produce carbon neutralized gas too. So gas is an inherently ungreen product. When it burns, it releases carbon dioxide. Now, we have planning permission for, and indeed in 2021 are looking to actually build anaerobic digestion facilities to turn waste plant materials into green gas. What we feel is one of about the most environmentally friendly ways of using gas that you can. Now, whenever gas is burnt, carbon dioxide is released. For the carbon dioxide released from the gas that our customers burn, we use gold accredited carbon offsetting to effectively ensure that our gas can be described as carbon neutral. And as I said, gas is an inherently ungreen product, but we feel this is just about as green as it can get. So onto the sort of what we do above and beyond selling carbon neutral gas and green electricity. We focus all of our work really on 4 key areas. So we've got generation of energy. Now, we don't just build our own wind turbines and generate electricity to sell to people across the UK. We also actually build turbines that then get exported across the world. We started the Britain's first national charging infrastructure network called the Electric Highway. I have an electric vehicle and use it routinely, and it's in almost every motorway service station across the country. Additionally, we started we took over a local football team called Forest Green Rovers. We got a lot of publicity and became hugely well known for converting that football club to being vegan. It's been described as FIFA's greenest football club. The UN certified it as the world's first carbon neutral sports team. It's seen our owner Dale Vince become a UN climate change ambassador. And it's really sort of used as a bit of a showcase or a bit of a platform to showcase a lot of our sustainability efforts, including things like an organic pitch, rainwater collection system, on-site generation, electric vehicle charging points. Now, the reason I've mentioned our energy generation, electric highway transport, and the food, so the vegan football club Forest Green Rovers, is because we identified that between these three factors, you can address 80% of your climate change or your carbon dioxide inducing climate change emissions. So for us, it's really important that we focus our energy in these three areas. We have, however, also recognized that there's a growing ecological crisis along with a climate change crisis that needs addressing. And through this, this is our fourth pillar of business. And what we're doing with this is we've started up a phone company called Ecotalk. When people sign up to Ecotalk, it's a SIM-only package. We use the profits for that to actually rewire parts of the UK. So on profits, it's really important to point out we're not owned by shareholders. So we're owned by Dale Vince still. Our entire mission, and this is the why of what we're doing, our entire mission is to try and fight climate change. And as I've said before, that's through the main three pillars of energy, transport, and food. So what else are we doing to try and fight climate change? Well, we've become involved in a number of different projects to try and help persuade the public the merits of low carbon transport and food, for example. A few years back, we developed the British land speed record electric vehicle, the Nemesis. It hit 151 miles an hour. This is at a time when most people's perception of electric vehicles were slow and old milk floats. We have then also developed the world's fastest land wind speed vehicle. This is the Greenbird. And finally, we helped, in collaboration with Kingston University, develop the Iron Horse. This is a super fast electric motorbike that competed in the Isle of Man electric TT, hitting an average lap speed of over 100 miles an hour with a top speed of over 150 miles an hour. Some of the things you might have heard about Ecotricity in the recent news. Okay, so we've got a really exciting deal we've just managed to negotiate with Britain's first hydrothermal or geothermal energy production facility in Cornwall. So we're going to be buying the power for those. So when I said that we got electricity from wind turbines and a growing body of solar, we can now count as a British first geothermal energy too. Additionally, our food offshoot from Forest Green Rovers has seen amazing success. We're now supplying up to 10% of UK school meals, and our products are now available to buy in Ocado. The last thing we're doing as well, which is super exciting, and this has got international recognition, is Sky Diamond. Sky Diamond, we're literally ripping carbon dioxide from the air, and we're hydrolyzing it in a facility near Stroud, locking it into the most pure and everlasting form of carbon that exists, diamonds. So we've done Sky Diamonds to sort of prove a concept that we feel businesses need to move towards. That isn't just climate neutral, which Forest Green Rovers is already, and which we're working towards for 2025 for the rest of our businesses. But actually, Sky Diamonds is carbon negative. That is to say, less carbon is in the atmosphere after a day of Sky Diamond doing their work than was before. And we think that's really exciting, and it's definitely somewhere where we need to be aiming towards. Okay, so we've talked about the who, what, and the why of Ecotricity. I wanted to get on to what I've imaginarily called 50 Shades of Green. You'll be relieved to hear there's not actually going to be 50 shades I'm running for. I just wanted something catchy that you might remember. So I mentioned previously that Ecotricity's unique selling point was the fact that we generate our own energy, and that's really important. There's a lot of people who have a green energy tariff in Britain. In fact, before I'd even heard of Ecotricity a number of years back, I remember being really excited about getting a renewable energy tariff with a supplier whose name rhymes with bulb. And I felt really empowered by that. So unfortunately, not all green energy tariffs are created equal. And I'm going to explain the three main levels of sort of green when it comes to renewable energy tariffs and the differences between them. First and foremost is the trading of green certificates, or called REGOs. So if someone opens up a solar farm somewhere, for every megawatt hour of energy they produce, they are also producing at the same time something called a REGO, a renewable energy generation of origin. And what that REGO can be done is sold alongside the power it's generating there, or in fact, the power can be sold to the grid and that REGO can be sold separately. Now, REGOs can, because they can be detached from the energy itself, the trading of REGOs can impact energy prices or green energy prices overall. However, it's minimal. Okay, so in 2017, a REGO for a typical house's supply of electricity would cost about 50p. Skip forward 3 years to 2020, a REGO would cost for about a UK house £1.50. So that means that a renewable energy supplier can start up, buy wholesale brown energy from the UK mix, some of which does contain green energy, but they can label that tariff as green by simply spending £1.50, and that's a green tariff sold for that house for that year. Okay, it does have an impact on renewable generators, but it's absolutely minimal. Okay, so for example, a 5 megawatt solar farm recently looked at the value of the REGOs they generate over a year. It would cover just about enough to cut the hedges. Now, if someone wants to produce additional on-site generation, that is not a decent business model and is not going to get past a bank or a loan officer. Going up one level, we've got what are called power purchase agreements. So this is when a renewable energy supplier will actually go directly to a generator. So for example, someone who owns a few wind turbines or perhaps owns some solar farms, and say, I want this volume of energy and I want to pay this much for it. Will you accept that? Now, the benefit of power purchase agreements over REGOs is it's a set and measurable income, and it stacks up much better than REGOs do when it comes to actually getting finance and making renewable generation a lot more financially viable. So compared to REGO generation or REGO certification of energy as green, PPAs are measurably better and they have much more of an impact. We use, by the way, PPAs, and to give you an example of a recent PPA, that geothermal plant in Cornwall that started producing electricity, we don't have the in-house expertise to do that, so we've signed a PPA to buy the power from those guys in a British first. We're really proud of that. Now, what we feel is the absolute greenest is to take the money from our customers' bills, what we call bills into mills, and then directly use that money to build renewable resources of energy. Now, why we feel that's greener is you're actually then actively adding renewable resources of energy to the national grid, and therefore actively displacing fossil fuel forms of energy on the grid. So as I've mentioned before, we've got 74 wind turbines, we've got a growing body of solar. We do use some PPAs as well. So we've got some hydro that are online with us already, and we've got that really exciting geothermal plant too. And unfortunately, for the rest of the energy we can't generate ourselves or that we're not getting through PPAs, we do use some REGOs as well. On to the benefits of switching to a deep green supplier. We're, as I mentioned at the start, a relatively small energy supplier that's not been around for anywhere near as long as, say, the big six. That said, we really punch above our weight when it comes to who we get to work with. So you'll see along there Apple, for example, but also organizations like Leon and Lush, and people like GigaClear and Riverford Organic Farmers as well. So what a lot of these organizations recognize is not just the fact that we provide award-winning service and that we, we're a green energy supplier in and of themselves. They don't just recognize the fact that there's a climate crisis, and really by giving their money to us, they know their bill money can then go into building additional on-site, additional renewable generation across the UK. They're also becoming more aware that sustainability sells. So Unilever reports shows that a third of consumers prefer sustainable brands. Okay, and actually, sustainability isn't something that's going to be a nice to have moving forwards. It's become an absolute imperative for brands to be showing that they're doing the right thing. So a lot of consumers, myself included, think it's really important when we're going to buy something, and it makes us feel better when we know that that brand is doing their best by the environment. I'm sure many of you feel the same. What that looks like from our customers' point of view is, for example, and this was very easy to do. I went to a couple of our recent customers' websites and just looked on their sustainability sections. They have our logo there. They have articles written about us. The BBC covered things like the Wave and how it's powered by Britain's greenest energy company. That's us. And also people like Leon, for example. So Leon have managed to engage not only their customers, but also they're engaging their supply chain to try and deal more with their scope 3 emissions. And they're doing that by saying, look, we're with a really green energy supplier. We'd like to tell you about why we're with a green energy supplier, and perhaps you guys can be with them too. And yeah, they're with us because they know that we're creating additionality, but also actually in the 20 years or so we've been in business, we've got a tremendous amount of sustainability credentials. I mentioned previously that Forest Green Rovers has received international recognition in the form of UN certification of being climate neutral. Dale Vince, our owner, is a UN climate change ambassador. We famously declared a climate emergency, we think before any large business did in the UK, on the 19th of May 2019. And we've achieved ISO 14001 accreditation. We're very well vetted internally and audited, but also externally as well. And that credibility, it means something to our customers, not just in terms of knowing that they're doing the right thing, but also actually it says something when you can put our logo on your website and say, hand on heart, I'm proud of where your energy is coming from. And also that your energy or your bill money that you're paying every single month is going to create additional sources of renewable energy. Onto some of the more exciting side of energy monitoring and analyzing energy usage. So we're a disruptive company. We were one of the first disruptors in the UK way back when we are not just tried but successfully disrupted the energy market. We also therefore want to see ourselves at the front of innovation, disruptive technologies, for example, energy monitoring and management. We work with a platform called Stark, and Stark takes data from your meters and actually puts it into really easy to visualize charts, and that's on as granular level as a half-hourly basis. And I'm going to show you some of what that looks like for a couple of our sites. So being an online platform, it means you can log in on any device at any time and you can run a huge number of reports. It's really customizable. So I look at the energy usage for a couple of our main sites, our head office, and also the place that's producing our delicious vegan food. Now, I was looking at it last week and I've noticed, I'm not sure if you can see my mouse here, but if you can't, I'm just looking at the spike on Saturday and Sunday, almost double the usage of our usual 4-week rolling average. I got in touch with our our head of sustainability, Dr. Gary Thomas, to ask his thoughts on what had caused this. Ironically, we were having an environmental audit that day, which meant, those days, which meant that they were opened up and therefore used up more than double what they'd normally use on the 4-week average. But I thought it was a really cool way of visualizing and seeing the potential for Stark. Something else for this energy monitoring platform allows you to do is also to set exception rules. So, for example, one of our largest customers, Apple, has a very, very clear hump pattern like you're seeing here of heavy usage during the day, minimal usage during night. Now, when they released an iPhone, one of the latest variants, that night usage completely spiked as people queued outside the stores to actually access the phone, and the stores were actually opened overnight when they normally wouldn't be. Now, an energy monitor for a large organization like that can actually create an exception rule so that they could be emailed when there's outside of hours usage. So let's say, for example, our head office here uses a maximum of 20 kilowatt hours per half hour during nighttime. I can actually set a exception rule on there so that I'll be told if it ever goes outside of that usage, which I think is very cool and gives you a whole lot of power when it comes to being active in terms of managing your energy usage. You can also do really cool things like set up league tables to compare different stores against one another. And Stark also gives you a view on what your maximum demand is as well. Maximum demand, for anyone who doesn't know, is the maximum amount of power you're allowed to draw from your supply. If you have a half hourly meter, you have to pay for that available power. You might not necessarily use it. And if you pay for more power than you need, you can be paying in the order of tens of thousands of pounds more per year than if you pay for exactly what you need. So another really cool thing we're looking at, and this is hopefully going to tie into a little bit more about what the I talk this morning goes towards, is energy monitoring and usage in the home. Now, I'm a raging energy nerd, self-confessed, and one thing I was really excited to try is something called Weeby. Weeby is a small device that fits in onto your home fuse box and actually measures the waveform of the power going into your home. Now, with a little bit of training and AI, it can actually learn which of your appliances are on at any time. So it knows what a fridge looks like, it knows what a washer dryer looks like, a dishwasher and a microwave. For large businesses that use some really unusual and bespoke machinery, Weeby isn't the solution there yet. However, they do have things that can be used. However, for small businesses where you have got dishwashers, microwaves, fridges, etc., Weeby, we think, could be a really interesting solution. And at the moment, having that extra granular data is really cool. One thing I've noticed is just how much power is being used in an annex I have for electric heating. I wanted to finally then move over to what we hoped to be able to offer IIE members, and indeed anyone listening today. So Ecotricity punches way above its weight in terms of having some real talent in our in-house trading team. And that's because of our green credentials. There's a lot of people who've come to us from various different areas to help set our trading floor up. And we're really proud of it. Now, what it means is that we can be as green as we can be, but also offer some pretty decent rates and some highly competitive rates, especially when we're factoring in a large number of prospective partners. So, for example, if people come through IIE and would like some energy prices, we can view your purchasing collectively to secure even more competitive rates than we'd normally be able to do. That's, of course, for 100% green electricity and carbon neutralized gas. And importantly, you'll get to know that you're helping fight the climate crisis with your business energy bills. You pay those business energy bills every single month without fail, and we just want to help make those count as much as possible. We've also got some really interesting energy solutions that I haven't touched on today, but we're more than happy to talk to you about, because we've got, frankly, decades of experience in this area. Now, that would be on-site generation. I hope I've said enough already on that front already, but it's something we know an awful lot about because it's something we do ourselves. Also, something really cool called virtual power plant, which is adjusting your demand at key times. So if you've got flexibility in what you use and when, then we're really interested to talk to you about that. And then also electric vehicle charging and battery storage solutions as well. So if you are interested in that, and you're saying to yourself, well, I don't have ownership of energy procurement, or what do I do next? I would say this. If you think you've got a renewable energy supply already, ask them if how it's backed up. Is it REGO backed renewable energy? Do they use PPAs, or do they use direct generation? And if you would be interested in getting some energy prices from us, please forward your meter information, your consumption data, and your current contract end date to business@ecotricity.co.uk.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, James. That's fantastic. We've got already a lot of questions stacked up for you, and I've got some questions for you as well. But before we get to the Q&A, we're going to switch over to Karen Igo, who is the Health and Wellbeing Manager and Lead at environmental charity PECT. Karen's going to be talking to you about, what you can do at home right now with so many employees working from home during this pandemic. So she's got some top tips on how you can save energy at home, as well as some other eco things that you can do to reduce your impact. So over to you, Karen.
Hello, everyone. Hi, just give me a second to share my screen. Okay, lovely. Hopefully everyone can see that. So thank you for the introduction, April. Yeah, I'm Karen Igo. I'm the Health and Wellbeing Lead at PECT, and a lot of the work that we do is working with people to save energy in the home. So as April said, many more of us are working at home at the moment, and this will have implications for our energy bills and our carbon footprint. So hopefully this very short presentation will give you some hints and tips on some things that you can try to reduce your costs and reduce your carbon footprint. Quite important really, because home energy uses makes up 22% of the UK's carbon emissions. So we all need to be doing our bit. So some quick wins in the home. If you turn your thermostat down by just 1 degree, it can save you £60 a year and around about 310 kilograms of carbon for if you've got gas central heating. So it doesn't need to make a big difference in your comfort levels, but it can make a big difference to your bills. Correctly use your programmer. If you don't know how to use your programmer, go on YouTube, have a look. They're all on there to show you how to use it. And if you have a room thermostat or the radiator valves on your radiators, and you use these in combination, the Energy Saving Trust says that you can save around £75 a year by doing this. And again, you won't feel any different in your comfort levels, but you will save around about 300 kilograms of carbon dioxide. Standby. We don't really tend to think much of those little lights that are on our TVs and the telephone cables that are charging our phones and our cables for our laptops that we leave plugged in. But the U-Switch have estimated that as a nation, we spend around £227 million a year by leaving our appliances on standby. Now, if you've got a family and you've got dozens of different phones, tablets, computers, all plugged in, get people switching them off and unplugging them. Turn your TV off at the wall when you're not using it. Turn your microwave off at the wall when you're not using it. And you will save literally lots of money and lots of carbon. If you're anything like me, since I've been working at home, the kettle goes on quite a lot. We're drinking quite a lot of tea and coffee. I think we're a little bit don't have to make a big round for the office anymore, so more likely to make one just for ourselves. So when you use your kettle, just fill it with the amount of water that you need. This will save you money and carbon. Never fill it right up. and just for the fun of it, it will cost you so much. And if you can, switch to a hot water dispenser. These 1 cup dispensers you can buy from about £30, and they save money and they save carbon. Now, the reason that they do that, if you boil your kettle, the average kettle with enough water for 1 cup, it takes about 1.5 minutes. Your water dispenser takes about 25 to 30 seconds. So every time you're doing your 1 cup of tea or coffee, you're saving about 1 minute's worth of electricity. And if you've got smart meters, you'll see when that kettle on, it is using a hell of a lot of electricity. Switch off your lights, switch them off when you leave the room, even if it's just for a few seconds. And this will save more energy than it takes to light up again. And if you can, switch to LED lights, which will reduce your carbon emissions by around about 65 kilograms a year for the average household. And that's the equivalent to driving 220 miles. So it's, again, quite a big saving. Draft proof your home. This will help with keeping the thermostat down and can save money and carbon again. And use your dishwasher and washing machine with some thought. If you use the eco settings that most have got these days, low temperatures, and make sure you have full loads. If you cut back by 1 washing machine load a week, this can save you around about £8 a year. And if you are washing up by hand, use the washing up bowl. Don't just leave the tap running. This will save on water, which again, it's really important to save on your water because water has a massive carbon footprint. And all of these things might seem quite small, and they probably won't make that much difference, if any, to your lifestyle, especially once you get in the habit of doing these things. But if everyone does this, we can collectively make a big difference throughout the country. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about investing in your home. So the first thing I'd recommend that you do is check your EPC certificate. You should have one at home from when you bought your home, or from when you if it's a new home, you should have one when you moved in. Older homes may not have an EPC, but you can get one done quite quickly and cheaply. And the benefit of this is it not only tells you what your performance certificate rating is, but it also gives you suggestions of how to improve it. And of course, the better your EPC rating, the more value your home will accrue. Once you've found out what you need to do with your home, one of the things that might be suggested is a low carbon heating system. And at the moment, there's the Green Homes Grant from the government. Now, you'll remember a few years ago, there was the feed-in tariff for the solar panels. This is a similar sort of scheme to encourage us to be getting more environmentally friendly heating systems in our home. And it's available up until March 2022, and depending on your financial situation, you can get a voucher towards your new heating system or your exterior wall insulation and so on, from around about £5,000 to £10,000. As I say, the amount depends on what your income is. This is really important because as a country, we're moving away from gas. From 2025, no new homes will be built with gas. And I think within sort of 15 years or so, we'll be looking at gas central heating systems, and they'll be as old fashioned as having a coal fire. And it will, it just really contributes to reducing our carbon footprint and making us more secure in terms of our fuel. And insulation, if there's one thing you're going to do, insulate your home. It just will make you so much more comfortable and save so much heat from just going out of your walls and your roof and through your windows, and save you money, and it will save carbon. You can insulate your loft really easily. You can buy loft insulation really cheaply, and there's lots of green types of loft insulation these days that aren't like the old-fashioned carbon fiber that scratches and itches and everything. You shouldn't be able to see your rafters. So if you look up into your loft and you can see your rafters, you have not got enough. If you can get external wall heat insulation, it makes a massive difference to your comfort. And if you have got cavity wall insulation and it's getting on a bit, get it checked because it may be degraded and you need to redo it. Electric cars. I mean, according to the RAC, at the beginning of this year, there was more than 150,000 emission battery electric vehicles on the road. Diesel cars and vans and lorries are being phased out, and we're looking to use electricity more. And of course, if you've got your green electricity supply and you've got an electric vehicle point at your home, you're charging it with green energy. Where do I charge my car? I hear you say. Well, you might be interested to know that currently there are more electric charging points in the UK than there are petrol stations. So there's more public points, than petrol stations. So not having somewhere to charge isn't really an excuse anymore. And finally, on this, you could invest in a rainwater harvesting system. So this can reduce your bills by about 40% if you're on a water meter. An average person, so you and me, uses around about 350 litres of water a day. But showers use the most of our water. So if you can get a water-saving shower head, that will really help. And it can save for a family of 4 on the combined water and gas around about £80, £180 a year. So finally, I'm going to talk about some things you can do in the kitchen. Food production is responsible for about 26% of the world's carbon footprint, and 58% of that comes from animal products. So introducing one meat-free day, introducing a meat-free day a week can save around 330 kilograms of carbon over a year for one person. So for an average family, if you halve your meat and fish consumption over a year, it can save as much carbon as you would use from flying to London, Rome and back. Cooking at home, if you cook from scratch, you'll use 25% less carbon than if you're using ready meals. And one of the biggest things you can do is eat seasonally, locally and organically. This makes massive difference to your carbon in terms of the local and the seasonal. In terms of your health, when we're eating local seasonal food, particularly seasonal food, we're getting the best nutritional content and doing the best thing we can for our bodies. And of course, with organic food, the soils are being preserved, the pesticides aren't being used and so on. So we're making a real impact on the environment. If you can, compost and recycle. In the UK, 24 million whole slices of bread are thrown away every day. I'll say that again because it's astonishing, isn't it? 24 million slices of bread. So try to find ways to do something like saving your bread. So you might use your bread and then put it in the freezer and get it out a piece at a time. And if you do end up with some bread that you're not going to use, put it out for the birds or turn it into breadcrumbs, make a bread and butter pudding. If you go online, you'll find hundreds of different ways of saving bread. And just don't buy so much if you're not using it. I'll give bread as an example, but there's lots of other things that you can do. And in terms of like changing habits, it's really difficult to change lots of things at once. But you could do one thing at a time. And when you've got used to doing that thing, which might be freezing your bread, think about something else that you can do. And of course, compost if you can. And if you don't have anywhere to compost, use a food waste bin if you have one. And finally, I think you're probably going to scream at me for this one, but cut down on your tea and coffee. So a cup of coffee contains 148 grams of carbon on average, and reducing the amount of tea and coffee you drink saves on carbon as well as on the kettle use. Drink lots more nourishing water and look after your body at the same time. So has anyone got any questions?
That's lovely, Karen, thank you. So we actually have quite a few questions for both of our speakers, actually. Lovely. So I actually have one to start for James. If you both could put your cameras back on, or James, if you could get your camera back on. Great, lovely, I can see you. Fantastic. So James, what do you say about, so we've got a lot of investors in the environment members are looking at kind of the next step in terms of, cutting their carbon through, they've done a significant amount of work to reduce their energy consumption. They've got lots of great tech, they've got the behaviors all in place in their offices and facilities. And so, maybe that next step for those that aren't on a green energy tariff, they're looking at addressing that. So where do REGOs, PPAs, direct generation, where does that fit into a net zero ambition or a carbon neutrality vision for an organization, if you're able to comment on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to just clarify something that another question has pointed me towards, because when you're talking in the void of silence, it's quite difficult to yeah, it's quite unusual actually. So I just wanted to clarify, we at Ecotricity generate about 20% of our own of our customers' demand ourselves, and the rest of the power we require we purchase through PPAs where preferable. We've had a huge drive to get more PPAs in, and also the rest is then REGO backed. So in terms of an organisation's net zero ambitions, yeah, we're really excited for that more and more people are declaring net zero ambitions. So your scope 2 emissions as part of going net zero basically mean that you need to be getting renewable energy power, renewable energy. And so if you come to us, then that will achieve those scope 2 emissions there.
Lovely. And so they can, when they're, particularly for larger organizations, when they're doing their carbon reporting, they can introduce that potentially as part of the narrative to how they're bringing down their carbon footprint and their greenhouse gas emissions. Okay, lovely. We really like the fact that, Ecotricity are working towards fighting climate change as, part of your mission statement. That is core to what we're trying to do as well, as an environmental charity and not-for-profit organization. So yeah, we love that, and we like the fact that you're sort of making it sexy as well to do, because I think making it very appealing, the sky diamonds and 50 shades of green, that's sort of the language that maybe we need to think about introducing to get more people to think of sustainability and going green as something that's incredibly appealing and that everybody should really be doing. So that's great. So a few questions here in the chat box. I'm not sure if both of you are able to see that. So I think maybe what you've just answers the first question from Alex, but about a green tariff being demand matched. So Alex is saying, by that I mean, should a green energy tariff mean that renewable energy is purchased to exactly or close to match the supply every half hour? Can you answer that a bit?
Yeah, so I can see why in an ideal world that would that makes sense. Trying to match, and you'll have to forgive me. I'm not on our trading team. I don't have responsibility for buying and selling renewable energy and matching it up to our customers' demands, which is what suppliers do. And what Alex has asked is a pretty technically involved question. I would say that he's mentioned that contract differences are the biggest driver of building renewables in the UK, and I know there is some disagreement on that, at least from our trading guy or some members of our trading team. So in terms of exactly matching up demand to consumption, I think that requires half-hourly metering and more granular metering on a scale we aren't seeing yet. So when the government try and pitch members of the public towards going for smart meters and talking about how important smart meters are for the greening up of the UK grid, smart metering would absolutely help with that. But it's fair to say that Ecotricity and every other supplier out there, we don't have as granular view on our customers' usages as we'd like, and that is simply at the moment because of metering. So yeah, I think Alex is right in principle, but it's not something that, at least to my knowledge, can happen yet. And we're seeing the same disinformation about COVID and vaccines and that kind of thing as we are With smart meters, there's a lot of people who think that smart meters are linked to all sorts of nasties, and actually they're really important to help green up the UK energy mix.
Yeah, we've certainly seen that from a variety of projects that we've run at PECT. I'm sure Karen could comment as well. So can you sell the business case for going to a green energy tariff? What does that mean? I mean, being able to talk about that, say that you're on a tariff. You've touched on bits in your presentation, but it'd be great to sort of hear kind of that elevator pitch for the business case for going green in your energy tariff.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of ways into a green energy tariff. Sometimes people who work in the marketing and partnership side of an organization might approach us and say, look, we want to be with a green supplier. And they're thinking from the business point of view that it sells to be sustainable now. I mentioned that Unilever article. Just as a consumer myself, and I'm sure you guys, a lot of you guys will agree, you not only want to be doing the green things yourself, but you want to be buying from, and your purchasing decisions will be affected by knowing that people that supply you with goods or services are being as sustainable and as environmentally friendly as possible. So there's absolutely a marketing side from it. But in terms of also a business case for purchasing renewable energy from, say, someone like ourselves, we're actually able to price pretty competitively when it comes to producing, when it comes to selling our renewable energy to consumers. So I'm not going to tell people we're the cheapest, because we aren't, but actually we're not as expensive as you might imagine for how green we are.
Yeah, and obviously you've mentioned that you're investing and actively adding to the greening of the grid through investment in renewable technologies and energy.
Yes, thank you, April. I wanted to expand on that. It's what we call bills into mills, and that underpins our entire energy proposition. But actually, every person, whether a business or a consumer, has to spend money on their energy bills. Now, at best, that energy and that money, those energy bills, might go to shareholders, and that might help inflate pension funds. It might go to then get leached out to actually be invested in fossil fuel industries and non-sustainable industries. What we want to do is something, or what we do is something entirely different. We use that bill money to actually invest in building new renewable resources of energy to actively displace carbon dioxide producing forms of energy across the UK. So bills into mills, it's what we're all about, and it's why we think we've got a greener proposition.
Brilliant. So it's that additionality rather than just labeling something that already exists as green. So I think that answers a couple of other questions in the chat as well. A question from Phil. So he says, I would like a smart meter, and I've been offered one by my supplier, which is actually Ecotricity, but I've been told the practice has to be without electricity. So this is from a veterinary practice, so his business has to be without electricity for an extended period, which he says he just can't do unless, can it be installed at a weekend? That's a very sort of practical question.
I just don't have the knowledge to say unfortunately on that one. I can certainly ask though, if you can ask. Did you say it was Phil?
Phil.
If you can please ask Phil to just drop me a message after, and I'll
Brilliant.
We'll get that looked into.
Lovely. Right. So, question for Karen. Going into insulation. So one of the things that you said can be really impactful as a first port of call for greening or improving your energy demand at home is getting your insulation checked, or making sure that your home is properly insulated.
Yeah.
How much does it cost to get cavity wall insulation checked, and who would actually do this? This person is saying my home supposedly has cavity wall insulation, but it's very cold and we have minor condensation issues.
Okay, so in terms of cost, it will vary depending on where you live. So I'm not going to put a cost out there. But I think if you get in touch or Google a cavity wall insulator, there's lots of companies out there that do the cavity wall insulation. And they will probably come out and have a look. I'm not sure if they, I can't speak on behalf, but different ones will come out and have a look. They want the business and do a free quote for you even to check it. it's really important to get it checked. But I did notice in the chat somebody said that it wasn't, they had a bit of a shoddy job done as well. So when you get your cavity wall insulation done, there's a thing called the cavity wall insulation guarantee, and there's a body, an agency that deals with this. So if you Google CIGA, which is Cavity Insulation Guarantee, they will have to help you if you've had a shoddy job done, hopefully getting it done a bit better. You should receive a certificate when you've had your installation done anyway, so and keep that with your other house or building documents. Yeah, so basically Google for some local suppliers or installers, find the one that you think is best, and if you have got issues, take it up with the Cavity Insulation Guarantee Association, who should be able to help you.
So for the Green Homes Grant, Karen, you mentioned heating. Are there other heating and insulation as well? Are there other things that people could be looking at accessing funding for to invest in greening their home and reducing the energy demand at their home?
Yeah, I mean, basically any of the major technologies are covered except for solar panels. So you can't get solar panels, but you can get a solar water heater. As I said, there's the ground source, the air source heat pumps, rainwater harvesters, and I think the exterior wall insulation is going to be one of the main ones, and have the biggest impact on the amount of money, carbon that you save, and your comfort in your home. I mean, I can't tell you the difference that it makes if you're living in a solid wall home and you have that external heating put on. You think you've moved into somewhere in Florida or something in next winter, because it's just so warm and cozy compared to what it has been.
Yeah.
And then the thing is with that as well, if you get that done, then you can get some secondary measures done through the funding as well, if the funds are still available there. So perhaps you need to get some double glazed windows replaced or a new front door, type of thing you can get done or loft insulation. You can use the remainder of your grant to get those types of secondary measures, as the government calls them, done. There is a lot on the government website about this. If you go onto the government website, you'll be able to see the details for this project.
Okay, we have time for probably just one more question. Question about flat rates. So this is the question for James. Am I right in thinking you have a flat rate for business customers like you do for domestic? For example, no cheap deals for new customers at the expense of existing customers. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So what Phil's referring to there is our Fair for All price policy. So yes, we do have that for business, and we have that for domestic customers as well. We do also offer, so that's a price anyone can access. We do also offer, however, fixed pricing, and now this is when you actually lock in. So that Fair for All pricing is a 28-day rolling contract, same for our domestic as it is for business. You're free to come and go as you please, just give 28 days notice. But yeah, what I was also mentioning earlier in terms of an offer for IIE members would be something different. That's on fixed pricing. So you tell us what volume of energy you're going to use over the next 1, 2, or 3 years. And we'd then actually produce a completely fixed in locked price for that period. Yeah, which is obviously going to be different to our standard 28-day business tariff price, and will be subject to whatever market conditions are.
Brilliant, that's great. Okay, so hopefully we've answered most of the questions. There were a few, and I believe I might have contact information for some of those that haven't been answered. But you can get in touch with us. Here is the email address. If you have additional questions that we weren't able to get to, you can email us at info@iie.uk.com. We will be sharing the recording of today's session so that you can watch it back or share it with colleagues. If you want to find out, again, go over some of the detail around the difference between REGOs and PPAs and the real benefits of investing in a green energy tariff. And what that means for your business and what that means for your carbon ambitions. And of course, just as a reminder to everybody, we've got a number of other webinars that we're doing up through for the whole year, but our spring program is now available on our website, which is www.iie.uk.com, and you can access and book those in now. We've got fantastic webinars from communicating your sustainability journey to the importance of the important role of women in sustainability roles, and how that they can impact environmental improvement in organizations and elsewhere. And of course, I have to plug what we do as an organization, Investors in the Environment. So if you're not a member of Investors in the Environment, go to our website, find out what we're all about. We can help you to reduce your environmental impact, and that includes reduce how you consume energy, looking at the different options, and really coach you through that process to get you to understand what your needs, your business needs are, what your environmental goals are, get you to understand a bit more around your carbon footprint, and help you take some steps through meaningful actions through the accreditation process and working through the different levels of the IIE criteria. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, James from Ecotricity. Thank you, Karen from PECT, for your fantastic hints and tips and knowledge around some areas that are typically quite confusing to people. So really appreciate your time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And again, if you have any questions, just email us, info@iie.uk.com, and watch out for some of our posts on social media after this event so that you can watch the session back. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you, April.